the alarming reason why people are leaving the state of Colorado. Now, this is the Living in Fort Collins YouTube channel, and we have just over 1,500 subscribers. So if you're watching this, thank you very much. And if you're a subscriber, thank you very much. Now, the world, according to Briggs, has just a little bit bigger of a YouTube channel than us, nearing 1 million people. And recently they did a video that discussed the 10 alarming reasons why people are leaving the state of Colorado. And today, on this channel, we are going to do a response video to those 10 items. These are based off of conversations we've had with people that are selling here in Fort Collins and moving out of state, renters who are moving out after their lease ends, and just our subjective opinion based off of some of these reasons. Now, this is the Living in Fort Collins YouTube channel where you come to learn everything there is to know about Fort Collins and Northern Colorado, eating, sleeping, playing, working. And if you're considering buying, selling, or investing here in Northern Colorado, we are licensed real estate agents. So give us a call, text, or email, and we'd love to work with you and have your back here in Northern Colorado. Now, without any further delay, let's jump into today's response video about the alarming reasons why people are leaving the state of Colorado. Let's go. The state of Colorado is a very desirable place to be. In fact, the population numbers have increased by double digits over the last many years since the 1880s, each decade double-digit appreciation, except for the 1940s, where it only had about 8% appreciation as far as population goes. But recently, our numbers are starting to kind of taper off. While we are still seeing population growth, it is starting to slow down. So why is that? What are some reasons why people might be leaving the state of Colorado?
Number 10, the weather. Colorado is a combination of high elevation, middle latitude, and continental interior. This results as a cool, dry climate in most of the state.
Number 10, the weather, the climate. We live in a high desert, basically a dry, arid, cool climate in Colorado. And sometimes our winters, specifically the winter that we just had, really starts to get long. It felt like since November, we've just not had significant amount of heat and we got snowed on. So I get it. There's definitely times where I consider heading out of the state for at least a month. And my mom, she has snowbirds. She heads to California during some of these winter months. But really, up until the holiday season and the new year, I would tell about January 15th, everyone's excited. They enjoy the snow. We got out of one of my favorite seasons, fall, and into the winter. And sometimes we don't get snow until late November, early December. By my birthday, which is November 17th, I always assumed that we were going to have at least one snow, and Halloween was always kind of up in the air. But really, once you get into the February time period, it just starts to get long. And like this year, we really didn't have like a 70-degree day, seemingly until April. So I get it, but the weather could absolutely be long and tedious. And there's a spring that we had last year in 2022 that was very windy, and we don't have the San Diego 75 degrees sunny and warm every single day. We have 4 distinct seasons, and if you're not ready for that and you want just a warm 80, 90 degree day all day, every day, Phoenix, Tucson might be the choice for you.
Number 9, the politics. Colorado's politics are complicated to say the least. It was once considered a swing state, and Colorado's politics has shifted towards the left in recent years.
The number 9 reason why people are leaving is politics. And we used to be a pretty heavily conservative community in Larimer County, very staunch red. Farming, ranching was kind of our roots, which over the years, we've recently kind of been more purplish, and even as of really 2010, we've been a very blue county. And Colorado used to be a swing state as far as politics go, but really recently we've been a pretty heavily blue town, or blue state, sorry. And some of the older generation, I would say, might not necessarily like that, or doesn't necessarily appeal to their current political views. But I would say the majority of people that are moving into the state of Colorado, while we don't necessarily talk to politics, we do see that they, tend to lean left based off some of the conversations that we have, but nothing too extreme. I don't see anything that is so far to one side or the other that really makes it uncomfortable to talk with. My personal opinion is that in Colorado, for the most part, you're going to have conversations with people who generally have an open mind, but tend to lean one way or the other as far as politics go. So I can see, as far as a county like Larimer County that used to be staunch red, then was purple, and now it's pretty blue, where maybe the older folks that really suspected and had some of those politics could potentially move out of Larimer County. Now, my only fear as far as politics go is one of the things that we'll talk about later is cost of living, and we don't have too heavy of taxes. 4.5% state tax. Our property taxes are about 0.5% of the purchase price. And if those things increase along with our currently pretty expensive housing, it could get expensive. So I hope that we can keep in check some of the policies that we put in place that increase taxes moving forward.
Number 8, high cost of living. Now, this is one of the first ones we got where it showed up quite often. The cost of living in Colorado is raising at a pretty good clip. I mean, all states are.
Number 8 is the high cost of living. While I can see the majority of this is really getting weighted by our housing, which we'll reach out and talk about here in the near future, a number here in the near future. Overall, groceries, going out to eat, gas, property insurance, property taxes, personal, income taxes are just pretty fair. They're nothing crazy that I can see, but really the things that are cost burdens for people right now are buying and renting a house. So we'll move on from here to discuss that a little bit later.
Number 7, wildfires and air quality. Colorado gets some pretty serious wildfires. Besides the fact wildfires are horrible, they destroy the air quality of the state, not just while the wildfire's going on.
Number 7 is wildfires and air quality. And while I could see this being a factor, really, we actually did have a client that moved out of the state in 2022. They moved out of Colorado into North Carolina because they were concerned about the wildfires and air quality, and we're concerned it was just going to get worse. So we have had this conversation with people. Me personally, in 2013, we definitely experienced a pretty heavy wildfire season. I was riding my bike up through the dams in Fort Collins, and I had to come down off Prospect Road, and was just like, this is not a good idea. I'm gonna get inside. We went and had breakfast and went home. But then in 2020, when the pandemic hit, we also kind of had a really rough next year or two of fire seasons, both in Colorado and also California winds bringing weather our way with smoke and haze. And there's times when I'm driving along I-25 and only see a hazy fog along the mountains during those times. And it's really disheartening. My hope is that we don't see those fires continue. I know there's conversations, there's studies out that discuss that it could increase as time goes, but my hope is I'm going to be living here the rest of my life here in Fort Collins, Northern Colorado, and that we can get some good education and understanding, weather, things of that nature that really limit the amount of wildfires that we have. And California gets themselves in check as far as their utility lines and things of that nature that seem to cause a lot of wildfires and push some of that air here. As far as gas and oil regulations, I know City of Fort Collins is discussing those and wanting to really limit the amount of oil and gas drilling here in Larimer County in the city of Fort Collins. But we also live along the foothills, which people discuss, hey, this wind and air kind of move these gases and it gets trapped along with the cold air pressure right along the top of Fort Collins. But I personally have never had any issues breathing. My daughter has asthma. I had asthma. So definitely was able to play all the sports, never had any issues breathing, and a lot of Olympians come to Colorado to train at high altitudes. So for me, I guess I don't necessarily see it, but we do rank as the number 7 worst state for air quality. And hopefully we can get that addressed sooner than later.
Number 6, jobs. Now, Colorado isn't really hurting for jobs. They don't have horrible poverty numbers or anything like that.
Number 6 is jobs. And it's not that people are leaving Colorado because there's no jobs. It's just that they're getting job opportunities out of state. And I think one of the things that I've talked about with some friends and other entrepreneurs and the city of Fort Collins, at least, is that we need to continue to retain talent. And that's part of the City of Fort Collins City Council economic plan is how do we retain talent in Fort Collins? How do we make it appealing to retain these talented individuals that graduate from CSU, not having them move to Denver? But I personally haven't seen many people move out of state for job opportunities. I did have a friend that moved to Oklahoma because there was going to be a more affordable place. Their family was there and they had a job opportunity to work at a bank. But really, for me, I think Colorado is a great opportunity. as far as jobs and employment. We just need to do a little bit better bringing those startups, entrepreneurs. Boulder, Denver, Fort Collins continues to do a great job on the startup scene and allowing for people to remote work here in the state of Colorado.
Number 5, retirement. A lot of people are leaving Colorado for retirement. Now, there's a few things that go along with this. One, the wildfires, the air quality, all that makes people move. In retirement, they don't want to stick around for the bad air quality.
Number 5 is retirement, and specifically due to air quality, cost of living, weather, and I could see it. You know, if I'm in my 70s and 80s and retired, I would definitely want to have family nearby. Hopefully, financially, I've paid off my house, and the weather ain't going to change that, but I can definitely get through the weather. But I would take trips and vacations more frequently than I would, during the summer. Spring, summer, fall, phenomenal at Fort Collins. And if I can get through those 3 to 4 months of winter, the kind of the heavy, deep winter in the state of Colorado and Fort Collins, I'm all right.
Number 4, the homeless. Now, Colorado overall really doesn't have that big of a homeless issue.
Number 4, homelessness. And the state of Colorado ranks number 15 or 18, depending on what study you're reading, as far as homelessness. Now, for me, I see homelessness as definitely an issue, mental, drugs, things of that nature that we need to address. And Larimer County has a Larimer County Behavioral Center that's being built and hopefully should open this year. But overall, there's a difference between homelessness and transients as far as if I'm going to move out of a state, homelessness definitely should be addressed. But transients, those are people that are deciding to live that type of lifestyle. And generally speaking, when I worked downtown in Old Town, those were the individuals that were kind of causing some issues. But as far as homelessness goes, those are people that have come across hard times, and hopefully we can support and help those individuals get back on their feet and within society sooner than later. But Fort Collins specifically doesn't have a huge issue. I can walk downtown, no issues with transients or homelessness on the majority of times. I don't put myself into dangerous situations late at night, walking around with my family at 2 a.m. or anything along those lines. But generally speaking, on a Friday night between 8 to 12 p.m., I could walk downtown with my family, 12's a little late, but feel just fine. So if Fort Collins is in consideration for transients and homelessness, not too big of an issue there. But we will see a big homeless shelter built in the next 5 years with the help from the Bohemian Foundation and the city of Fort Collins building that homeless shelter in North Fort Collins off College Avenue.
Number 3, the crime rate. Okay, so Colorado's crime isn't that bad.
Number 3 is crime rate. And while the state of Colorado doesn't rank super high on violent crimes, it does rank number 8 on property crimes. And for me specifically, walking around with my family late at night, downtown Fort Collins, I feel very safe. But I would say my wife definitely looks at me and says, I need to have more awareness. Walk into a situation and understand that there are people that might not necessarily have the best intentions at heart. But overall, born and raised here in Fort Collins, spent 35 years in northern Colorado. I've never felt the need or concern about my safety and or my family's safety. So I don't see that as a huge issue, potentially more in a bigger city or metro like Denver. I did have a friend move from Wellington, Colorado, which is a small, sleepy town just north of Fort Collins, to Seattle. And what really shocked him was when he moved there, and they moved there for a job opportunity for his wife, who was a PhD. I can't remember the PhD that she had, but it was for basically biological sciences. And he was shocked when they would ride to work or walk to work. They would always be stepping over transients, homelessness, walking by and through needles, and just didn't feel safe. And it wasn't long that they spent there until they moved to Bend, Oregon. So generally speaking, Fort Collins, super safe. Denver, can't necessarily speak to too much on that, but Colorado, overall, I'd be shocked to leave Colorado for any type of crime rate. But World According to Briggs suggests if that is a concern, you want to move to the Northeast, Maine, Vermont, or Maine.
Number 2, housing costs. This has been a problem for Colorado for a while, especially longtime locals can't stand it.
Number 2, and this is the one that we talked about earlier when we talked about the cost of living, but specifically housing cost. And the state of Colorado has definitely risen at a faster pace than the western side, not including California. And I would say with a lot of people from Fort Collins that I know, that's been a really big barrier for them, is to buy a house, or they are renting and don't want to, and they want to be able to afford a house, but they can't come up with a down payment or The monthly mortgage now with interest rates as high as they are just a very big burden. But we are still seeing a lot of people moving from across the world and across the country that see Fort Collins, Northern Colorado as affordable. Parts of Denver, Boulder is its own animal, super expensive in Boulder and Aspen. But Colorado Springs, parts of Denver, Fort Collins, Northern Colorado, Windsor, lots of different areas are still very affordable to people across the country. But locals who might not necessarily have the higher income that maybe somebody coming from Silicon Valley or parts of Northeast or Northwest may be bringing to Fort Collins and Northern Colorado and being able to remote work. So I hope we can get higher paying jobs. We can see kind of a steadying out of the housing cost appreciation, which I think is going to happen, especially if we see, again, these rates of growth in Colorado slowing down. Builders might be able to catch up. Inventory might be able to increase, prices flatten out a little bit, and we see that housing costs slow down. But I will say, as far as people moving into the state of Colorado, very affordable. People born and raised here, Northern Colorado might see it a little expensive.
Family. That's right, people are leaving Colorado because they want to live closer to family. Now, this isn't anything wrong with Colorado, obviously. It's just the number one reason given why people leave the state.
And finally, number one is family. And my wife, Janae, and I, people moving out of Colorado to go move closer to family. My wife, Janae, and I are definitely working towards trying to recruit our in-laws to Colorado to be closer to their son, their daughter, and their 3 grandkids. But they have their friends and jobs in California and want to stay there for now at least. And when they retire, they're discussing going to Texas or Tennessee, I think are the 2 places that they're discussing going. And for me, shoot, I would, if I was in a position to be able to move where at least 2 of my 3 kids are and 3 of my 3 grandkids, I'm moving there. But I had a conversation with myself. I was like, well, and Janae and I, we were kind of talking, what if your friends and your activities, your hobbies, your day-to-day operations are all in the same area? Would you leave? And I guess we just don't know right now. But we do have folks that have moved from, like I talked about earlier, from Colorado to Oklahoma, job opportunity and to be closer to family. Another from Fort Collins to Minnesota to be closer to family. So we can definitely see that being a big driver. And I love being around my family, love spending time with them. Getting onto a flight this Christmas, going to California with our 3 kids, it's going to be a lot of work. And if they were just down the street, it would be a whole lot easier. So I definitely see that could be a big reason why people leave the state of Colorado. Now, there we go. The 10 alarming reasons why people are leaving the state of Colorado. Personally, I feel like there are some reasons that make sense, others that don't necessarily. But each reason are something that is unique to each individual, and you have to make those decisions on your own. All we're here to do is provide our opinions based off of our life and experience here in Northern Colorado. If you have any specific questions, don't ever hesitate to reach out. Comment below or send me a text or email, especially if you're considering moving to Northern Colorado. Our team loves to work with out-of-state buyers. We've really dialed in our systems and can help it make a smooth, seamless transition. We have over 100 5-star reviews on Google and would love to assist you. Thanks for watching. Until next time.